Hello, seventh graders. So today's the first lesson on angle relationships. And the first angle relationship that you are going to learn about is vertical angles. All right. Vertical angles are a pair of angles formed when two lines intersect. So whenever two lines cross and they form an X, you have vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. All right, and we haven't talked about congruence much this year. Congruent means identical. All right, identical or equal. All right, so if you have a pair of angles that are vertical, we know they're identical, aka congruent. All right, so here I have two intersecting lines. I've got a line here. I'll call this line L. I'll call this line M. And they intersect, they form an X. Now, where do the vertical angles happen? They happen across from each other. All right, so I would say that this angle on the left side of the paper is congruent to the opposite angle on the right side of the paper. So they're like on opposite sides of the X's. All right, now sometimes in a diagram you'll see congruent angles. You'll see like a kind of like an angle marker, kind of like that. I'm not the best artist. And then you'll see a matching angle marker on the other side. All right, so these two angles are congruent. There's another pair of congruent angles that happens. The top angle, this angle here up top, is congruent or vertical to this bottom angle, this angle down at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to do two angle marks here to show that those two angles are congruent. All right, now how do we name angles? All right, this is important because it's easy, but something we can't skip over. All right, so let me draw another set of vertical angles here. My straight edge is a sheet of paper because all my rulers are in my classroom, so don't make fun of me. All right, and the only straight edges I have here at home are like, I don't know, 3 feet long for building things. So I don't have much of a straight edge, so this sheet of paper is going to work for today. All right, I could probably find something better, but you get the point. So I've got two lines here. They're intersecting. All right, I'm going to call this middle point A. All right, I'm going to put a couple points on the lines. Call this B. I'll call this C. Call this D. I'll call this point over here E. All right, now the most common way to name an angle is to use 3 points, all right, with the very middle point or the very middle letter being the vertex, all right, where the two line segments converge. So if I'm talking about this angle on the left here, all right, so it forms a mouth, I can name this angle using 3 points. I could use B, A, and C. So I could call that angle B, A, C. And the important part is that A is the vertex, right? That's basically the middle where that angle forms, all right, where the two lines intersect. The vertex always has to be in the middle. So I could call this angle BAC, or I could also call this angle CAB, all right? Same thing, really doesn't matter, okay? As long as that vertex letter or the vertex point is in the center, you're good. All right, now a little more math notation here. For congruent angles, I'm not going to use an equal sign. All right, I'm going to use an equal sign with a single squiggly above it, like an approximate sign. All right, if you see an equal sign with this above it, that means congruent. So this would read angle BAC is congruent to angle, well, let's see, this angle here on the right, because they're vertical, and I could call that angle DAE or angle EAD. Doesn't matter. I'm going to call it angle DAE. DAE. All right. So this means that these two angles, BAC and DAE, are congruent because they're vertical. Now I've got two other vertical angles. I've got angle CAE and that is vertical to angle BAD, bad. All right, so I'm going to put 2 lines there. All right, so BAD, I've got to put my angle sign, BAD. All right, and notice this little L shape, that just means angle. All right, it's kind of like a crooked L. All right, guys, so this lesson covered 2 things. Vertical angles, they're on the opposite side of the X. They are congruent to each other. All right, and congruent means identical or equal. All right, we also covered one of the ways to name an angle using 3 points, where the center point or the center letter is always the vertex. All right, and this is how you'll see angles labeled in IXL. All right, so as always, if you guys have questions, send me a message.